Hi everyone! As we reach the end of season 1 of our Mummy Matters series, I just wanted to take a look back at some of the moments that changed my thinking. It's been a real pleasure connecting with all our lovely guests, and I hope you will join me soon for season 2 with yet more guests and interesting topics.
And it was so difficult because I came to realize that something had to change. And the biggest epiphany of my life is that if I want to be the best version of being mum, I had to find my own individual identity and purpose.
I love that.
And that's probably the thing that kind of hit home to me, that, you know, we have so many roles in our life. Yeah, we can reel them off, right? And often when I do this kind of work with people, they will reel off, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a professional, I am this, I am that. They can reel it off. And yet they all forget the most obvious role in life. Nobody ever names themselves. Nobody ever says Dara or Raki. And that's the role that feeds everything else.
So true.
First thing we let go of is ourselves. Because we think, oh no, but I need to be there for my child. It's my responsibility. You know, we've brought this child into this world. Yeah, you have. But that person who brought it in was you as a person. It didn't just a role appear, you created that role, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about this concept of, I feel guilty. Why should I be thinking about this? This baby is helpless. They can't do anything. They're not, you know, they can't look after themselves. Yeah, but you can't look after mum if you don't look after you. And that's the biggest thing I kind of check in with myself. It's that reframe of thinking of, what does it take for me to be the best version of me, so then I can be the best, I can give the energy I need to give that best version of mum. And that's the thing that I kind of ask myself all the time. Now, not every mum or parent is going to think, oh, well, actually, I agree with that. Some people feel that their purpose, they are energized by being that mum figure. And that is their core purpose. That's what they want. That's their purpose. That's what they've always wanted. And there is nothing wrong with that. What I am saying is asking yourself the question, what is my purpose? What is making me fulfilled? And is it making me happy? Is the question that we miss the most. And if you then choose, I want to be a person, I want to be a full-time mom, it's what I want. Or I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to start my own business. Or, you know what? I want to work for a business and I want to switch off from it and I want to come home and then I can be mom again. That doesn't matter what that looks like. But simply knowing that's where you want to be by choice, not out of demand or necessity, allows you to stay closer to recharging yourself and filling your cup up as an individual. You know, yes, we have responsibilities, financial, children, all of these things, but ultimately all those roles that you have, if your self becomes impacted, whether that's physically or mentally or both, because they all work together, right? Your mind influences, it shows up in your body physically, you know, stomach inflammation because of stress or something else, or you have a physical, you know, you have to recognize that if they're not being nurtured, you are not going to be able to go out to go to work. You are not going to be able to be that best parent or mother, right? So unless you start putting yourself first in the pecking order, maybe most of us women probably need to even put ourselves on the pecking order first of all before even getting it to the top. Then you're going to start looking after it. The only thing that is the anomaly here in my eyes is we all have different limits. So some will have a limit of 6 months or 6 days, some will be 6 years down the line. But if you keep repeating it, eventually at different points in all of our lives, you will have your version of what I call my crash. You could call it anxiety, you might call it depression. I don't think I was depressed. I think I had my lowest point in my life. That's how I want to reframe it in my mind. And that lowest point in my life gave me the opportunity to pick myself up with purpose and healthy boundaries, whether that is with my children, my husband, or my work.
I'm not sure about myths. I just think, sometimes comments are unhelpful, which help to promote these myths,
Yeah.
and I think, just everybody should be very mindful of what they speak before they say it. So, just if you think something, just think twice before you say it. That I remember there were a few people saying that, she's working full time, that's why she's had miscarriages. No, that wasn't the reason why I had miscarriages. I had a miscarriage because that pregnancy was not a viable pregnancy to continue, and there were reasons behind that. It was nothing to do with because I was working full time or anything like that. And I think comments like that are just very unhelpful. I remember some mature ladies in the community kept saying to me, don't wash your hair, and things like that, because it's not very good. And I just kind of feel like maybe there's a place for kind of why they say that, and that's totally fine. But don't force your opinions on somebody else, and then make them feel guilty about an event has happened because you did this. And I think that's not fair to do on somebody. So I just feel like, just with myths, just don't say them. Just don't think before you speak.
Especially in our South Asian culture, I feel there's a lot of superstition around pregnancy, around birth. And I know I was up against that as well. Like you said, don't wash your hair and things like that. I mean, for a new mom to go into motherhood with those superstitions, I think you always start your journey with these things at the back of your head. What if? And I think that's quite detrimental to a lot of moms out there, because if anything does go wrong, they almost start judging themselves and feeling guilty themselves. Have I done anything that I shouldn't have that has caused this? Could I have, maybe not gone through it?
I think, when I kind of went through Shivai dying, and, when I think back to kind of the miscarriages as well, I didn't really look after myself, if I'm honest. After I'd had the miscarriages, I had let kind of people sort of like almost dictate to me that, oh, you can have a second one, you can have another one, you can try harder, it'll happen, just keep trying. And so I didn't process each loss when they happened. And because my body and my mind was in that state, I just kept going like a machine, if you know what I mean. I didn't really kind of think about what the grief that I was grieving at that time. And then obviously I had Shivai, and that was, and after he died, that was the first point that I actually started to look back at, all these moments where I had experienced some form of grief or something, or a form of loss, and I hadn't really dealt with it. So I started to sort of deal with it a lot later. And I wish I'd dealt with it earlier, because not for any other reason except for, in my own mind, maybe I might have been able to look after myself better in that time. And obviously that's when kind of meditation came my way, and I went into a coaching group, and I looked to be coached around that, and that was when I started to realize, actually, all this time I've been saying such negative talk to myself, that my body is not good, that I'm never going to be able to deliver a healthy child, and I had such negative talk that I was telling myself. And I feel like I should have just not paid attention to that negative talk as much, and I wish I'd kind of taken that position to look after myself earlier. But I feel like maybe back then I was just thinking I was feeling guilty of doing that, because I always kept thinking that, I need to take care of my family, and I need to take care of Karthik, and I just need to have another baby because my other son needs a sibling, so I was just I just kept going. I just kept going. But what I wasn't doing in that journey is I was not looking after myself. And that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that to be able to look after other people, I need to look after myself first. Like, you have to fill your cup up before you start serving from an empty cup.
Yeah.
I wish I had taken care of myself a lot longer and not felt guilty about it. And, because I certainly don't feel guilty about it anymore. I actively do a lot of things for myself. We do things as a family as well. So martial arts has now become a big part of our life. My son has been doing it for 7 years. He does Kung Fu. And, part of the reason that we put him into Kung Fu is because we thought, it would help his body, mind, and his physical sense to be able to cope with a lot of these things like breathing and yoga and, physical strength. It's all kind of combined in martial arts.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing that journey for 7 years now. And, Karthik and I started the martial arts journey last year. And Karthik turned also to exercising as a way of him being able to cope with his own mental health and his own well-being. And for me, exercise came a lot later. I went down the route of meditation, and that was what's helped me to cope through this whole time, and journaling. And I have I've got, this is my gratitude journal, which is what I write in every single day. I write 3 things. You can see some of them here. I've written in there. I write 3 things every single day about what I'm most grateful for. And that's, that's a gratitude journal. That's kind of a way of living a life of gratitude. And it helps me to focus on the good things rather than kind of things that I want to let define me, which are maybe bad. So, and when I say good things, what I mean by that is, in my journal, I might have something like, I saw a really lovely picture of Shivai today, and that made me smile. And I'm grateful because I had that picture with him to make me smile. Or it could be, I got reminded today of, the time, like today, I might write down that, I got reminded today of, we used to call the baby bump, the miscarriages that we had, each one of them we used to call bump 1, or, whatever. And that makes me smile, actually, now, even though it is, a moment that was quite sad for me.
Yeah.
And I still miss, and I wonder what those babies would have been like, it just reframes my thinking a little bit, and just helps me focus on some of the better parts of life, rather than not better parts of life, but what I'm going to take from that situation, rather than, I don't want to be sad. And that's the biggest thing, that I don't want to be sad, like I was before, because even though the situation was traumatic and it was sad and it was lonely, what I've come to realize is that actually I don't want to be sad about it anymore. I don't want to cry about it anymore. I just want to think back at, those babies, and think back to Shivai, and just focus on doing some really good stuff out there in his name, and helping as many people as I can, and just really like embracing life, because he just had 8 months, and those babies weren't even born to experience a life, and here I am, and I have a life. I'm here. So I kind of owe it to my babies, and I owe it to myself to live that life that they never had. And in that journey, if I can do some good, then that's great. And if I can spread some fun and laughter in my own life, and in my family's life, and in people that watch me, then that's good for me as well. Because when I'm gone, I want my kids to look back and say, what, mum went through a lot of things, but what, she always made us feel happy. And I want to leave them with happy memories of me, and not leave them with sad moments of me.
I think that is one of the barriers sometimes with sleep consulting as well. Like when families need the help, they feel like they can't ask for the help, or perhaps because their parents didn't need the help and they're just told, you know, we just got on with it. So your child will learn to sleep eventually. So it's almost like you're meant to keep going, regardless of how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because other people did it. But we don't have to measure ourselves by other people and their experiences. We need to be true to our own. And if we are struggling and we need the support, we are in the information age. We are in a place now where information and knowledge and consultants and coaching is available.
It's all at your fingertips, isn't it now? It's like you don't even have to look very far.
It can absolutely transform your life. Nobody needs to sit at home and struggle on their own.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad you've brought that up, because I think that's the biggest message that a modern mother has to understand, that we're not living the same way as our parents or their parents lived. Like we are living in today, which is very different. Parenting has completely changed. The way we do things has completely changed now. So, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. You don't have to suffer in silence and just go with it. You know, reach out, get the support you need.
Absolutely. And I think the time is the real commodity. Rather than paying for a service, if you think about your time,
Yes.
what do you get? So for example, when I'm working with my families, what they've been struggling with for maybe months or years, I help them transform their child's sleep within 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow, that's amazing.
Evenings back, that gives them nights back, it gives them all good rest. So they're starting to feel like themselves. How many months and years have you saved? How many hours in the evenings have you spent in like your child's bedroom trying to get them to sleep? Getting all that extra time back. Well, how valuable is that to you?
And it works wonders as well. Like, you know, I myself will tell you, my child used to be up, and it wasn't even up for a reason. She was literally up just to see my face. Like, that's how silly it was. Like, she would get up just to see my face, and I'd take her back in the room and she'll lie down and go straight back to sleep again. There was no need that she needed to be up. It was just the fact that she would come and find me in the house, like, where are you?
You just needed to see you there, didn't you?
Yeah. It's just that reassurance. Yeah, it's just that reassurance that, you know, mommy's there. But the thing is the minute they started sleeping better, I could get so much done in the evenings. And, you know, it makes such a difference, because you wake up thinking, oh, okay, I've got all this done in the evening, and it's fine. Like, so now, like, when they do have a bad night, or when they are up a lot, you instantly know, because it affects your time. Like, you just feel like, where's my evening gone? So I completely agree that, you know, time is like the biggest commodity right now. Like, we just have to make the most of it.
So if that's affected, then eventually you're just asking for more problems, you know. So there's got to be a safe way of doing things. And if you keep comparing yourself to other people, that's the quickest way to become unhappy.
Yeah.
You have to find self-love from within, which is something that most women lack these days, because they're always looking for something on the outside. Yeah. And that could be from the outside, could be from buying materialistic things, you know. So people are so empty, they're not filling their cups with gratitude, they're not filling their cups with self-love, self-care. It's empty. You're pouring out of an empty cup. You're giving everything to everybody else around you. And this is why it's important I love journaling. I like to clean my thoughts out.
Yeah.
And, you know, give myself the space of when I am frustrated, and asking myself, why am I frustrated with X, Y, Z, or why am I angry with this? What upset me? And that's what it is. Like, weeds grow quickly in your mind, and you want to pull them out. Yeah, you have to stand guard of your, you know, the gate of your head, because we're being affected by everything. Most people aren't aware. They're just living through life.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Not only that, but I think now it's become a trend that self-care is now a luxury. Like, you know, I've said it in my blog posts as well, that since when has having a bath been a luxury? Like, it's a given, it's a basic human need. But like, even like sitting down with a hot drink, it's become a luxury now, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be about, you know, having that time for yourself. Like, you schedule meetings, you schedule time for your kids, you schedule everything else, but why not schedule time for yourself? Why not build in that time every day? You know, like you're saying, your journaling is your time. That's the time you've set out for it, and it helps massively. Like, I'm a mum of 3, and I'll be the first one to say that up till very recently, I have been all about everyone else. It has just been part of it. But I've actually learned that unless I am 100%, I can't give 100%. I can't give 100% to the kids, to my husband, to the family. And And that's, I think, it's an understand. I think it's something that, as an Asian, I know for a fact that it's been embedded in my kind of ethos for generations. Like I've had my grand saying it, you know, my mom says it, and it's only very recently that I'm like, okay, right, we've got to rise above that. There's truth in what they're saying, but there needs to be that balance.
And I think you have, and I guess kind of bring it back to anxiety, I think you have to be mindful of your own anxiety and the stories that you're telling yourself in your head about actually what's going to happen if they miss out on this. How, because actually it's probably not going to mess up their development that much. But I think there's a fear that actually, and I kind of have a bit of a narrative I'm hearing from other people that, you know, they've missed out on so much, so therefore they're going to be really messed up as a result. So you need to do all of this stuff to overcompensate. And it's that fear of wanting to do the absolute best for your child and wanting to undo what's happened, except you can't undo what's happened. And actually being mindful that you're probably being driven by your own anxiety, and maybe if you take a step back, things will be okay. And the more that you're getting really anxious, and the more that you're worrying about these things, the more your children are hearing you get anxious and worry about these things, and the more they think that there's going to be a problem. I would say find somebody, a safe person that you feel able to talk about it with. Somebody who's hopefully not going to get caught up in your anxiety, so you're not going to be both sitting there panicking together and winding each other up, but a calm person you feel you can trust. Because sometimes when you start to talk about these things out loud, you realize how caught up you're getting. Sometimes you realize how ridiculous you're being, because you get them, and I'm the worst person for this, you kind of get it stuck in your head and it's going round and round in your head and you're starting to panic, and then you say it to somebody else and they're like, mate, I had the same with my kid, like, this is normal, don't worry about it. Because the more you make these things into a big deal, the more of a big deal you often become. I think when you start to feel maybe in your body that panic rising, that kind of knot in your stomach, try and find a way to take a step back and just breathe. And if that is kind of getting out for a walk, or, you know, locking yourself in the toilet and having a coffee if you have to, if you're surrounded by it, whatever you need to do just to get 5 minutes to just breathe and say to yourself, do I need to be getting this anxious? I guess kind of the third one is sort of just trying to remind yourself that just because you're thinking it doesn't mean it's true.
But I think it's really important with that to actually surround yourself with people that would give you that level of support. I think there's a lot of stigma attached to having anxiety, having anything that affects your mental health with motherhood, because your worth as a mother is often kind of judged by how well you cope. And I think there's a lot of moms out there who need that validation from an external source, when really I think it's really important to kind of hone in and understand that that validation is someone's opinion. What you are is what you are. Like, you can't take that away, that you are a good mom. And yeah, we all have those bad days, but that doesn't make you a bad mom, you know. And I think it's one of those things that I think, because I've heard it from a lot of friends that say, you know what, I'm such a bad mom, I told my child off for misbehaving. And then you feel so guilty, and then that mom guilt creeps in, because obviously mom guilt never goes away. It's always there, you know, when you least need it. But it's almost this thing that you have to kind of live up and almost perform as a mother to be able to feel like a good mother, almost.
And I think it's about finding those people in your life who get it, and finding those people in your life where you feel safe to be vulnerable, because you have to, in order to be able to say this is what's going on for me, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable and sort of talk about, actually, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm worrying about, this is what's going on for me. And I think I wouldn't say, you know, just do it with anybody. I think you need to find the right people to do that with. And I suppose coming back to kind of running and why I find that helpful is, for me, I have a group of friends I go running with, which for me is quite helpful because they're a bit older, their kids are a bit older. And so when I'm talking about what's gone on with my child, they're like, yeah, like we had that.
I get it, yeah.
You'll get through it. And that is very, it's very reassuring, but it's making sure that you have, whatever your community is, finding people in your community that you feel safe to talk to. And I think sometimes for some mums that can be the tricky bit, because I'm hearing what you're saying in terms of you go to playgroup and there are all the mums that, you know, look like they got it together, who look like they're
sleeping through
everybody else.
Yeah.
Who their child came out the uterus using cutlery and all the rest of it, sleeping through the night, no issues, potty training, where, you know, out of nappies by their first birthday. And that's not necessarily helpful. And I think there are people out there who will try and make themselves feel more secure by judging you, which really just makes them feel more insecure, because that's reinforcing their own beliefs around not being a good enough mother. But they're and so it's being mindful of finding the right people.
And also surrounding yourself with the right people. Like, you shouldn't feel ashamed to say, actually, I don't want to be around so and so because they bring me down. Like, you know, it's not a bad thing to say that, because you're protecting your mental space. And if your mental space is in a good place, then you will be a better mother. You will be a better person, which will obviously be better for your children, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think as well, it's about, you know, showing your children that it's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to feel anxious. It's normal to feel anxious.
Because we've got this thing in our house that we sit down and we talk about what we feel like. So even if I've had a bad day and the kids are just not listening, I will sit them down and I will tell them that Mommy's had a really bad day today. Yes, I have raised my voice a little bit. It's not the right way of doing it, but Mommy needs that time just to be able to breathe. And I think as they've got older, they're maturing a lot more, because they're seeing reality, that it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to, you know, handle things a certain way, as long as you can kind of bring yourself back to reality almost. And I think it's a life lesson that a lot of children, especially in today's day, I think they need to see that they don't need to always be at the top. They don't always need to be, you know, the best of the best all the time. Like, it's okay for them to be able to regulate emotions and, you know, be able to do these things.
Absolutely. And I think often there's a really strong narrative, you know, you've got an anxious child and then everyone else is flapping around them saying, don't be anxious, and then they think, I'm not allowed to be anxious. I need to be happy all the time, there's something wrong with me. And the more you fight the anxiety, actually the more anxious you feel. And so by showing your children that actually you can feel anxious, or you can feel angry, or you can feel sad, and you can work your way through it and you can be okay at the other end, is so important. Because actually then they think, okay, well, I can do that too. And also, I'm not the only person who feels anxious. I'm not the only person who feels sad. I'm not the only person who feels angry.